meeting at 1:30, and so I think the vice chairman is turn to ask questions. So maybe I will wait for maybe a few minutes, or we can come back and start his questions. Or otherwise, I will continue with my questions, and when it comes in, I can yield to him. I think this should go to the interim CEO. Okay, now that the vice chairman is here, I will yield the floor to him, and then I will come back.
All right, thank you, Chairman, and welcome back to the interim CEO, the Chairman of the Board, and all the Nmti staff there with us here today. So let me just try to. Okay, so I know there was a lot of this morning. There was a lot of dialogue. A lot of information. We got some comments from the public comments segment of the agenda, and we also recognize that it's a sort of like a new beginning for Nmti in the transition from a nonprofit organization to a public entity, public educational entity. And with any transitions, in any case, there's always those challenges in trying to kind of start all over again, or kind of continue on with different terms and whatnot. So I only have one question, but maybe I was kind of through this morning's discussion that I was basing myself on trying to stay on the public law 20-92, because that's what we should reference to move forward, and not use the past requirements or mandates that was before that, right? So as I was looking at public law 20-92, section 1, again, are the finding and purpose of the bill. And that's clear. It's the intent and the direction in reference to obtaining skilled workers and satisfying our workforce needs in reference to the U.S. immigration policies, right? And those policies that are in place that will decrease the number of foreign skilled workers in the CNMI. This public law is sort of the beginning and the answer to that, so that we can replace the absence of those workers. So that's section 1 in the public law. Section 2 is the enactment of the public law, and the enactment is clarifies and spells out the mandates of the new law, right? And it specifies the qualifications of the leadership personnel, and a lot of the structural the structure of the school and how it's supposed to run. And then I think on section 3, that's where we're kind of recognizing that there's some kind of there's some bumpy road in that, and that's where the turbulence is coming in that section of the law, section 3, which is the transition provisions. And I know there's some so-called inconsistencies or challenges, or just maybe different interpretations of the law, of the mandates, and what needs to be done. But under that, in the transition provisions, it says that upon the effective date of this act, which was, I believe, February 18, 2019, the operations of the NMTI shall continue under the direction and control of the Board of Directors and CEO. And then it moves forward to confirmation of Board of Trustees so that there can be that exchange, right? And then the Committee on Transition shall be created. And that's where we're kind of seeing that, you know, we need to kind of battle ourselves out of that, right? And then it gets to the transition plan, right? The NMTI transition plan shall include the following, and it's the structure of what needs to be done, right? The transfer of property, right? The assets and everything from what NMTI was before into the public educational institution. And then we get down to the transition report. And I know that you guys have all read this and but I just kind of wanted to kind of detail it out on how I'm looking at it. The transition report. So under that, it says, upon complete implementation of the NMTI transition plan and completion of the transfers to NMTI, the chairperson of the Committee on Transition shall submit a transition report to the governor and presiding officers of the legislature within days after the transition is fully complete, right? So that brings me to my question, and probably to the chair, because the chairman of the board, based on the law, act as the chair of that transition committee. So the question is, was the transition plan and transfers complete upon submittal of the report to the governor and the presiding officers of the legislature? Maybe the chairman can answer that, just so that we know where we're at right now, so that we can find how we can move forward on what we need to do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vice Chair Salon. Pleasure. The transition plan, as it's stated, per this Public Law 2092, a lot of the elements from the subcommittees was not completed. So, for example, itemizing all the assets at the school was incomplete. So, per the law, everything was supposed to be tagged, valued, labeled, location. That was not done. I know one of the committee members is here. Getting a lot of the information proved to be quite challenging. I had submission of a report, or the financial report, which was 2 pages. Just saying, okay, we're done. We had a meeting, here's the minutes. So dealing with this many people and meeting with the AG's office for clarification, because I obviously needed answers, because people are telling me this is it, this is it, and this is it, which even hearing you, the next statement, that what you're saying is absolutely true. These elements must be met, and I concur 100%. The next statement says the termination of it. So it's like a football game. These elements must be met. However, when the clock strikes 0, you don't get to score a touchdown. It's over. So the termination clause has to be read as well, which states right here, and it's item G under subsection, which is page 18, I guess. But it says termination of the Committee on Transition. The Committee on Transition shall terminate and cease to exist upon the submission of the transition report to the governor and presiding officers, legislature, but no later than 180 days of the organization. So that's clear. So when I'm getting, and that's per the AG's office. So people keep coming to me saying, yeah, but it's not complete, it's not complete. True. Hence, and if we continue to read what happened, it's spelled out clear. I was never confused on any of this stuff, but had to get clarification from the AG just to share it with the team. And it says 180 days of organization. Upon the termination of the Committee on Transition, which it did, the NMTI Board of Trustees shall have full control and supervision of NMTI Technical. So that's where it went. So in my submission, following Public Law 2092, because that 180 days was going to terminate the transition committee, we weren't allowed to continue. Many people on the committee said, no, it doesn't matter. We can submit no, you don't need to follow the law. We don't have, I said, no. The law says that, AG said it, that's what we're doing. 180 days it's terminated. And I even said in the transition plan, forgive us, the committee, it's not complete. I mean, even as of a few weeks ago, the CEO is in there finding gumball machines that weren't even itemized. There's just, like, the overwhelming magnitude of what wasn't done is left now in the hands of us. So per the law, the Board of Trustees takes full control. And that's the law. So hopefully that
Got
works.
it. Thank you, Chair. And I was gonna get to G, and I had, the reason why I didn't, continue on is because I understand there's section G, which is termination of committee on transition, that took place.
Yes.
That was abided by. What we're trying to figure out now, before we can all move forward, is F, is the actual transition report and the completion of that. And probably it would be good to just maybe continue finding out what kind of assets are there. Like you said, you're finding things as we go along, even in the absence of that transition committee, so that at least the entity can move forward full force, knowing what what assets it has, and all the reports and stuff like that. But that's all that I kind of saw and felt with all the dialogue this morning, is just that portion, that transition, that section 3, and it's that transition report, right? So I guess I know there were many challenges, and there were a lot of how the law was interpreted and what needed to happen. There was a lot of moving parts. I understand that completely. Any transition in anything is tough. In any business or government entity, when we're trying to move from something to another, like they say, the change is hard, right? But we still have to get through it, because we still have the ultimate goal, which is to provide the programs for our students. So I think that the transition report F, and the work that needs to be done in the report should continue, at least internally, to see what MTI has, so that it could be documented. And we know that the termination of the committee has went through, and there is no more committee anymore. There is no more transition committee. But that is not to say that we shouldn't account for all the stuff that should have been in that plan, because we can't just leave it behind, and whatever we can, as long as we kind of account for all of those things that are mandated by public law 20-92, I think we can move forward. And that's where we can kind of see what we need to do when we get that complete report, even if there's no transition committee. But that's how I see things. And I say that because I'm trying to find out how we can move forward smoothly. There were some portions of public law 20-92 that were followed and abided by, but unfortunately, F on transition report, the complete report was not completed. So we didn't, and I say we because we were all in this together. We didn't complete that portion of the public law. So I think we should move forward and try to account for all that stuff, and from there we can kind of start from that moment on to make sure that we try to get these classrooms open, and the students back into these classes. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. And I know that in the lead of any educational issues and concerns, we always yield to our chairman of education. He's probably the most versed in what we're looking at now. So I yield back to the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just wanted to go briefly back to the transition plan and transition reports. These two are different. First, the law asks for a transition plan. And in that plan, to begin that plan, the law enumerates what are the highlights that should be in that plan. And did the Board of Trustees ever come up with a transition plan? I'm only hearing transition report, but did did the trustees come up with a transition plan? How to go about? There's a, you should come up with a plan on how to go about the inventory and accounting of fixed assets and all of these things, financial audit, plans to transition the management, uh, the annual budget, uh, relevant information pertaining to transition. Uh, Then you have letter E, and then it enumerates in more specific terms what should be in the plan. And then after that plan is done, that's when they should put the report together and send it to the governor and the presiding officers. So that's what should the Board of Trustees should have done at the very beginning. And if that was done, I think you won't be hearing some issues on this one, because on the plan, the plan should indicate, okay, you're doing the inventory and accounting of property. This is the deadline. You start from this date to that date, so that no one will get confused as to when actually to submit their task. So that's the plan. And then after that, you prepare the transition report, and then you submit it to the governor and the presiding officers. So we're past that already. And however, the ideal situation that should have been done is that when all of these things are done, like the transition report, and we were hoping when we were working on this legislation that 180 days is more than enough to finish before the 180 days. And then the Board of Trustees should present this report to the Board of Directors so that they can review, because they will be accountable of what that transition report is saying. If they're missing money, missing equipment, missing of any assets, the Board of Trustees are responsible, and the Board of Directors are responsible. So the Board of Trustees should have called the attention of the Board of Directors that we have this completed, we're gonna forward it to you, please convene and review the report before we submit it. But since that's already gone, I think we need to move forward and try to move the school forward. And then also, I have a question here. This legislation took almost 4 years, and it took two legislatures to finally have it into law. And that's how committed we are here in the legislature in making sure that we provide our people with the needed training and labor skills and education and whatnot outside the academics. And when the governor was testifying in the U.S. Congress for the passage of U.S. Public Law 15-2118, a senator, Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, I believe, asked the governor, do you have plans to train your people in carpentry, electricity, plumbing, masonry, and so forth? And the governor responded, of the Nmti bill. So that testimony satisfies the Senator Joe Manchin. So I really would like to, for the chairman and the CEO, to really go back to this public law, and because the law also dictates that the board of trustees should organize an advisory board. And the reason we have this in the law is that there won't be any duplication of classes or programs between the education institutions or other nonprofit training uh, institutions in the CNMI. So I would like to ask the chairman if there is an advisory committee to Board of Trustees. Have you organized that yet?
As I said before, I'm just waiting. I spoke to Board of Regents. I was speaking to Charles Cepeda, and he said he's getting confirmed. He's part of that advisory board. So right now, I'm going to invite everyone, and then they are, per the law, there's an advisory board. Also, we have internal with Mr. Vic Cepeda and some other veteran employees helping advise on some of the transition items. So the answer is yes, it will be activated.
Have you communicated with, because the law under advisory committee is specifically mentioned, not only NMC, includes the Secretary of the Department of Labor, Secretary of the Department of Commerce, the chairperson of the CNMI Board of Education, and the Northern Marianas Board of Regents. Those are the people, because these are the institutions that will be dealing with you under NMTI. And this is to avoid any duplication and any confusions of the programs being offered with NMTI and the NMC and PSS, and also very important, the Department of Labor, because they have all the information of the needs in terms of technical education. So I strongly recommend that you use these people instead of your internal advisors, so that you can come up with programs to avoid any duplication. So your program at NMTI should align with the programs at PSS, NMC, and the needs of the CNMI in terms of labor with Department of Labor. And also commerce is very important because they have these statistics, they have the data of these things. So I urge you to create this committee, contact these agencies, and create these committees. Furthermore, because not everyone is an expert of everything, this legislation furthermore suggests to the Board of Trustees to have an advisory or advisory committees on particular field like carpentry, who are experts in that area that can advise the Board of Trustees as they develop the programs also, auto mechanic, plumbing, and so forth. So these individuals, what the law is saying, that get a hold of these expert people to help an NMTI. You don't have to come to start from scratch. You have all these. We have these in the CNMI. We have these professionals in the CNMI that can help NMTI move its programs forward with no duplications and no bickering over one or the other about I offer that, why are you offering that? the legislature gives us money and they give you money to do the same thing, and then we will hear an outcry from the public. So that should be looked at, and I suggest that Chairman, you work on that and have that get going, because yes, you have that on the presentation you have all these things, but you don't have these people to tell you that, oh, don't don't vote for that, because we have that already. So why duplicate? Okay, and then there are other things on in the law that I suggest that be looked at real carefully, and the CEO, if you need any interpretation with this public law, please get in touch with our legal counsel, because Antoinette played a major role in the drafting of this legislation. Okay? And as I said, it took us two legislatures to finally have this bill become law. Now, the law also dictates on the part of the board of directors. The reason why I'm talking more, I will be talking mostly on the board of the trustees, because you're the governing body. It is not the CEO that is going to govern the board of the trustees. It is the board of trustees. You are the governance of Nmti as a whole. So you have to put together your efforts to make sure that the law is followed and NMTI's programs are moved forward to the aiming of the intent of the law. So when Chairman, do you recall when the board of trustees pick their slots? Who is going to be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, things like that? Do you remember?
Yes, Chairman.
How far back that? Do you know the date?
I can give that for you. March 12th.
March 12th, 20.
We initially met for the organization of the Board of Trustees,
Mhm.
and then we all drew the terms to,
Okay.
yeah. So it was on March 12th.
March 12th, 2020 or
2020.
2020. Okay, so on March 1st, 2020, did you come up with an expiration date for each of the board of trustees?
Yes, Chairman.
So,
I can provide you the names and the terms if you like.
and we would appreciate that
Definitely, sir.
very much. I have a copy here,
Okay,
but I would like you to submit one,
I definitely have one. I can send it to
and
you.
we would like to compare it with yeah, whether what you have is the right expiration date or not, because this is specific law,
Mhm.
or this law is very specific, and it's quite different from other boards and commissions. So the expiration dates of other boards and commissions might be different because of the language of this legislation. So we want to make sure that what you come up with is consistent with our interpretation of the law, so that you will not have any more questions in the future as to, no, that's not the expiration date, and no, this is the expiration date. And the Attorney General also came up with, I think maybe 2 years ago, with the interpretation of the expiration dates of appointments on boards and commissions, and this involve the Board of Regents. So from that legal interpretation of the law for the Board of Regents, the AG corrected that, and that's how the Board of Regents were put back in place from the very beginning. So to avoid that, I suggest that Chairman give us that copy, and we will compare it with our copy, and then we will advise you and the CEO the correct expiration date. And the legal counsel is suggesting that it's a good thing that the chairman of the EAGI is here, that any confirmation of boards or commissions, we should put it on the report, the expiration date. So everybody knows who's confirmed. I'm confirmed today. My term expires on this date, because a lot of the nominees, when they're confirmed here, they thought that, oh, I'm expired on this. Literally, they know that their expiration date is not the right date. So that will also give you an opportunity when you nominate the nominating committee chair to look for a vacancy, a replacement. Now I'm going to go to the nominating committee. It is not specific in the language, but we thought that it's clear, and now we're making it clearer through an amendment that you as a chairman, you would nominate a nominating chair, and this chair should go out, and this should all be in writing, not verbal. It should be all in writing. When you nominate, you put it in writing. The board approved that you nominate this, put it in writing, and then the nominating chairman, whoever they identify, this committee must advise the nominee, asking the questions, are you willing to serve? And then the nominee will respond, yes, for these reasons I'm willing to serve. And those documents should be attached when you send your recommendation, nomination, the committee's recommendation to the governor. And that will give the governor a better opportunity to say, well, they have vetted this nominee, and this nominee is willing to serve, and this is why this nominee is willing to serve. So I just want to make that clear, because it seems like that was not clear. And also in the law, it is specifically mentioned that for the board of trustees, there shall be no employee from Nmti nor the government. So that's the law. If you're searching for Nmti replacement for a vacancy, your nominating committee must look for, and I suggest that you look for people who are very interested, because now, like, the chairman is here for the EAGI, and we are going to be asking, are you willing to serve? Are you willing to be absent how many times? Because we cannot confirm any nominee anymore when we hear that they're not attending sessions or they're not attending meetings. So I want to make that clear, that you give the governor an individual who is committed. Don't give the governor, and the governor will give the Senate President name that later on we will be disappointed. So this is for the benefit of the Board of Trustees and the person who is being nominated. So they see that you guys, the Board of Trustees, are serious board. There's a lot of responsibilities, and if you look at the responsibilities of your board, that's a lot of heavy bags to carry. So, and I hope that that is taken into consideration. We are amending the law to clarify this part. We were kind of just in the amendment enumerating step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, to make sure that you have it right. And if you need an example of that, we can give you a copy of how, because this same language, we propose the same language with the Board of Regents. So the Board of Regents when they submit the nominee to fill a vacancy, they have all these documents. So the governor has a clear picture, and when it comes here, the governor also sends them those copies to us, so we have a better picture of that individual, because that individual is committing him or herself in writing that yes, I am committed to be working in this work. So, and my next question is, did the Board of Trustees have any adopted bylaws?
Yes.
And so this is the one. Is this your? It says your Board of Trustees. Oh no, I'm sorry. It says here. Is this the one? It says Board of Trustees policy.
Well, there should be bylaws and policies. A lot of it we adopted in place. A lot of it was already existing from the NMTI trades.
Okay, so
A lot of that was.
do you have the Board of Trustees adopt the existing Board of Directors bylaws?
Yes, with the caveat of as long as it was, I know we met or discussed making sure it was in I guess on par with what's existing right now with the government agencies. So because that was a public or a private institution, some of the policies were based on a private institution. So we had to modify to make sure it was for a public entity as well. So it was kind of taking the HR policies that were on, so it's kind of
This is a public institution. It must be promulgated. You must promulgate your bylaws.
Mhm.
And if this is the one that you guys adopted, do you adopt it as a permanent bylaws, or you adopt it as an interim bylaws?
Well, I think initially, because we were still seeking legal counsel through this initial phase, because the transition, in theory, I mean, if I could back up just a second, and I did meet with the AG's office, and basically what they said, just for clarification, and maybe I'm wrong, and you can correct me, because I know you authored the bill, but some people are saying that the trustees need to get with the board of directors, come up with a plan, the trustees come up with a plan and give it to the board of directors for approval, and then they're gonna sign off on it. Well,
No, you come up, the Board of Trustees should come up with a plan,
right,
and you work on the plan,
right,
and then when you do the report,
Mhm.
you have all this put together.
yes,
That's the suggestion that the Board of Trustees should have advised the Board of Directors to convene, because we are forwarding you our transition report, and review whether you have any recommendations or suggestions with the report, because ultimately, whatever is missing
Mhm.
that can be identified in the future, and it's not there, the Board of Directors might say we are not responsible because we didn't see what they have. Then there's the blame will go back and forth. So that's
There's
why
good news.
it is important that you present to them and either accept or make recommendations, and then when they make recommendations, that's when you make the final. And you were in the Board of Directors, so you are aware of the assets and all those things. So, and that's the ideal way to go. And perhaps if that was done, I think there's going to be a smooth transition, and maybe it will not create confusions or some things in with the board of directors or the staff. But we're gonna move forward with these things.
Can I just make one comment, Chairman?
Go ahead.
So that actually was done. And when I did meet with the Attorney General's office, and I said, should this happen, the Board of Trustees, the Attorney General said, no. She goes, why do you think the Board of Directors, which I was on, the Board of Trades, which I was on, and all the appropriate government agencies were on the transition committee, so there wouldn't be any of this, you go to them, you go, we were all in one room. We were all assembled for that very reason. So they said, no, the trustees don't, I'll give you the public law, I mean, the LSR on that too. The Board of Trustees weren't even activated until after the transition is done. So we didn't have any participation other than, that's why we were all on the transition committee. That's why all the Board of Trades, the directors were on the transition committee. So there was none of this, go to them, and all why the government agencies were with us. So collectively, in 180 days, that should have all been done.
Yeah, what I'm suggesting is before you release the report.
But the trustees didn't exist until after transition is completed.
So I'm suggesting that if that has been done, because there's 180 days, that's 6 months to do after.
I agree.
That's half of a. So
I can send you all the emails of frustration where I was telling people, here's the going back to your point of giving deadlines. I did give the deadlines. I mean, I get it that people are volunteers, but these are grown adults. If we say this is the deadline, I say I'm submitting on this day, it's going to be I'm going to do a submittal prior as a progress report, see where we're at. I took everybody's temperature. Every time I emailed, I would say, do you have any questions or comments, please add. All the trades were involved, the directors, all the trustees were involved, and all the government agencies. So when the agencies back to public law, per the law, when we look at saying the committee or some of the elements that were supposed to be met shall include the incomplete inventory. Well, all the personnel was there to do the inventory, and that was the committee's job to do the inventory to make sure all that was done. And then file their subcommittee report collectively to the group, and then we could have collectively all together was the plan. Each subcommittee was trying to work. I tip my hat to a lot of the folks that worked really hard. But there was unfortunately, there was some information that would say, oh no, you don't have to. At one point, one committee, they were told they don't have to do any of this, leave it for the trustees. So that was the committee report.
Okay,
And I'll share that with you. I mean, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but that's the facts.
I suggest that the Board of Trustees, you instruct the CEO to do the complete inventory of everything that is called for in the law. Because have you been audited before the trustees took full control of Nmti? Was there any audit that is requested by the Board of Trustees?
Yes, that was actually supposed to be part of the transition report, and I have all the emails. We're waiting on it. The Board of Trades went in recess because the former CEO was supposed to supply us with the audit. 180 days came, I had to submit without the audit. So no, in my transition report that I submitted, there was no audit because nothing was ever supplied.
I think for any person before taking over an institution, especially from a private to a government, and the law is clear that there should be no debts. Everything must be complete. So if I am the Board of Trustees or the CEO, after we have taken over, I will ask the public auditor to come and audit and see and compare whether what their audit. I'm not talking about, that's a transition report, but for any board of trustees that is responsible, especially from private to government, that should be done after you have fully taken, have the institution, the public auditor do an audit of Nmti. So that you can protect yourselves. Because if the public auditor finds any errors or anything in terms of finance, uh, inventories are missing, who is responsible for that? The current board of trustees will be responsible later on because they are in charge. And if that is done early, then you can say that, well, we're not responsible, that's why we have this audited, so that we can see that we are not going to be liable for these things because the law said that it's, everything should be in order. Now, going back to the policies, the procurement, CEO, is this your procurement policy? Is this the one,
Yes, that was
is this an interim policy or this a promulgated policy?
that's interim. So we have already, I went through it on the slides. We've done 3 separate assessments. And right now we have a draft procurement policy. You're talking about procurement?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a draft for the board's review that's in alignment with all CNMI and federal procurement regulations.
Did the Board of Trustees adopt during an official meeting the procurement policy of the Board of Directors as an interim policy?
Yes,
That's in the minutes?
I believe so,
So,
along with the personnel.
if my suggestion is that if these things are gonna happen,
Mhm.
is that you should update this interim policy and put here adopted by the board on this date as interim policy. And I would like to reiterate that your policies, because you're a government autonomous agencies, must be promulgated.
Okay.
Okay? It cannot be just you looking at the policy and coming up with a policy and giving it to the board to approve. It must be promulgated. That's the requirement of law. If it's not promulgated, then it is not an official policy, even if the Board of Trustees adopted it. It has to be promulgated. It's a government institution now, not like when it's the private. So every policy that Nmti must come up with, especially those required by law, must be promulgated and must be, once it's promulgated, the board must adopt the final rule. And on the final print of the policy, it must state there when the board adopted the final policy. These are very important because you're a government agency. Okay, now, moving forward, did Mr. Younger mentioned earlier about volunteers, employees at Nmti because the lack of money. And earlier I heard you said that there is money from the board of directors that were transferred to the board of trustees. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
Yes,
How much we're talking about?
the transfer from the board of directors
Mhm.
was 13,000.
13,000?
Yeah.
So did the board establish an account at the bank?
Yes,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay. So the, you mentioned you submitted your budget to the governor for
Yes.
2022. Did you meet the deadline?
I did.
You did? When did you submit it?
In April.
April?
Yes.
The budget is due to the legislature April 1st.
Also, I guess I didn't meet it.
Did the board of trustees approve the budget that you sent to the governor and the legislature?
Not at the time, so I got appointed on March 20th.
Mhm.
I wasn't officially out of CHCC at the time, but I was putting work in and was only able to complete the budget towards mid-April.
But even after you have completed the budget in mid-April, you did not submit it to the chairman, so he can call a meeting so that the board of trustees can give a blessing to the budget before you send it out.
No, I did not. I failed to do that.
So I recommend that from now on, that budget is considered not official, probably submit to the legislature, to the governor, because the law states that it must be approved by the board of trustees. Yes, you're the CEO, and yes, you are given in here, and we purposely put the language in here that in the absence of the board, you can do that, but you must go back to the board
Oh, yeah,
and present that
so I did do that.
when.
I send it out via email, which is what the board prefers, and then when we get together again, that's when we discuss it.
But did they call a meeting to adopt, to give a blessing to that? Did they call an official meeting?
The only,
Because that cannot be done by you contacting the chairman or other board members to you agree with this. There must be a call for a meeting, and it could be a special meeting that the chairman can call and have you present and give the blessing to me. This is your protection.
yes,
By following the law. The reason why we put this in here, because if there's an emergency, you can take action and then report to the chairman, and the chairman must call a meeting and consider the action you're taking. So that's for your protection. And before the pandemic, how many students do we have at Nmti? Do you have any information?
yes, 45.
45 only?
Yeah. That was what was established from the courses reopening in January of 2020.
But did you, Mr. Chairman, is that reflected on the transition report that there's only 40 plus students at NMTI during the board of directors time?
I didn't have that information to include in the transition report, so I don't know.
When you were a board of director before you switched to the board of trustees, do you have any recollection how many students are attending NMTI?
I sent in several inquiries about it, and then I received I asked for how many students are there, and then I received it was like an Excel spreadsheet, and it was like names were just duplicated, like, for example, I replied, I said, how many individual students do we have? And the list came back that there was so many students, but when I looked at the spreadsheet, it was like, you were listed 3 times, you were listed 4 times, you were listed. So it was so skewed that the number was whatever that number was, but everybody was just duplicated, triplicated, because it was based on whatever class they took, not an individual student.
So if a student is taking 3 classes, that student is counted 3 times?
They did, no, that's what I said was wrong. I raised the flag on that. I said,
No, but I'm asking you, was that the practice with
it appears to be so, yes.
so how do you count now as board of trustees?
Well, CEO has one student, I mean, just how the enrollment is, if one student enrolls like college, just because you take 5 classes doesn't mean you're 5 students. So you're one enrollee, and that would be counted as one enrollee regardless of the number of classes you take. I think it's just an accurate number opposed to, it looks good, I understand that, and for whatever reason, I don't know why it was done, but if, you know, it looks like it's a big number and it's inflated, but it's not an actual accurate number, so.
No, we're asking for the facts, we're not asking for what looks good
Yeah, I agree with you.
to us here in the legislature.
Amen.
Okay, so now that you have staff and faculty, how do you account for your time and attendance? Yeah, do they come in and they just check your name on the timesheet, or do you have a time clock to make sure that your time and attendance are accounted for?
Yeah, we just recently procured a biometric time clock that's going to be installed in the conference room for everybody so that it's accessible. It's, I guess, former trade staff, if they come in and they teach, then there's a lot of adjustments that are going on in the personnel side. Practice before was, nobody timed in or out, and so now we're going to have to implement a timing in and out of all staff.
From what I've seen in government, that's what the public auditor's first point of comments is, where's the time clock?
Yeah.
How come everybody just checks in? How do you verify their time that they actually work this many hours?
I agree.
So if that's in your plan, that you should implement that to avoid any citation from the public auditor's office when they audit an Nmti. So there's some comments about the about NMTI, and one of the comments is why NMTI is so bogged down with certification or accreditation. The law dictates that, and if you are an employer and you want to hire an electrician, I don't think you want to hire an electrician that has no certification or any credential to verify that this individual is certified, or this individual, there's a documentation that this individual know what he or she is doing. When I was working on Public Law 14-45, this is about the Trades and Technical Program at PSS. This is 2004. I was invited by the Rotary Club to present that legislation. And this businessman, he's an American guy, they all supported that legislation. But the question he asked me is that, are they going to be certified? He said he would hire, and I'm going to quote him, any student at PSS that holds a certification in electricity, and I don't mind paying him $15 an hour, because his credential will assure me that when he hires my house, it will not burn down. So that's why those are really important, and the law also calls for that. Now, you mentioned that you submitted several CEO, you submitted several funding requests. Did you ever discuss that, or will you report to the Board of Trustees
Yes,
so
sir.
that you have plans to prepare for these grants, for that funding to Department of Labor or to the legislature, and can I get your blessing so I can go ahead and prepare and submit? Do you do that all the time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And just for clarification, going back to the certification, so even if we're not accredited as an institute, our programs that are being offered are accredited, so people do get certifications.
That's fine, because the law does not say that you cannot keep those credentials even if the institution is not accredited. But the reason why accreditation is important in the law, because it will give some credence to the institution, and it will also give some opportunities to NMTI to avail to some of the grants that are available or might be available for NMTI. So that's very important. So I promised the members that we were not going to be here beyond 2:30, but it's already 2:32. So my last comments is don't wait for us to come down to you. You need help. You seek our assistance because we don't know what you actually need. We can guess what you need, but we don't really actually know what kind of help you need. So, you seek our assistance here so we can sit down and discuss, your needs and how we can help you with your needs. CEO, do you have any plan to look at the data at labor and also look at the report on the prevailing wage and see the demands of trades or technical areas in the CNY? I am saying this is that we should focus the programs at NMTI based on the demands and the needs of the CNMI.
Yes, sir.
And we only have up to 2029. And I don't know whether we will be given another extension for CWs by the US Congress or not. So the NMTI should really focus on the needs of the CNMI. And that's why the law requires that you meet with NMC, Labor, Commerce, PSS, and align your plans in terms of program classes, so that it will be will have good alignment of programs and classes. Now, last question, and then I will close, and we will be calling NMTA again, so we can discuss further on how the legislature can assist NMTA, and also what are other plans that you would want to share with the committee or with the Senate. It's really it gives us here in the legislature it it opens us on how we can help you more if we see your needs rather than us assuming your needs or the help that you need. So the reason why I'm repeating that, because for us, that is very, very important. And Mr. Chairman, I thank you for having the board of trustees here, because what I hear that when the board of trustees are called down in the house, there's only two or one person showing up. So I'm happy to see that the board of trustees are also here today for this meeting. And again, CEO, I thank you for coming here, and Mr. Chairman, thank you too. And hopefully this is not the last time we're gonna meet. This is a very important institution. I know it's hard to start the initial government, uh, to start the NMTI. Actually, it is not, for me, it is not really hard because you're shifting from the trades to NMTI. It's just a matter of just picking the right people to start the foundation. And the foundation is already there, but to move it to a higher level is the one that is absent. So that's the board of trustees and the CEO's job. May I ask, Chairman, uh, because if you look at the definition of interim, uh, says that just in the intervening time, just for a short time. What's your plan for the interim CEO, or does the board have any plan to appoint her as a CEO and remove the word interim, or what's the board's plan?
Good question. Yeah, that's actually something that we've taken up at prior two meetings. We talked about removing the title. Right now, we're doing the evaluation process on the interim CEO. So she's done an outstanding job. As you can, I mean, the feedback has been phenomenal. Looking at all the hard work and progress she's put in. She's a very passionate individual. I'm definitely impressed. I know she's impressed and turned a lot of heads. So I love her, done a great job. So that's definitely in the works. I know a lot of people have been asking, when does that interim label come down? And just rest assured, it's in process. We want to make sure we do the fair thing, evaluate. Everybody's going to have say. We'll come together as the board of trustees, and then we're going to make that decision together. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Going back to your policies, you're an autonomous agency. You're an autonomous agency. Your policy, you can promulgate a different policy within the law. If the board of trustees wants to adopt the procurement rules and regulations, that must be stated in an official meeting. Now, if the board of trustees because you're an autonomous agency, wants a procurement rules and regulation, not the same as the CMA procurement rules and regulations. You can do that too, but within the law. And if you look at PSS, you can look at NMC, and you look at COC, other autonomous agencies, they have separate procurement rules and regulations, but within the law. It must be promulgated, and every time you're gonna make changes, you have to promulgate the changes. That's how you make it within the law. And also, this is my advice, always go back to 20-92 and see what the 20-92 calls for. For your personal rules and regulations, You are an autonomous agency. If you want to adopt the regulations of the executive service under the civil service, you may. Are your employees civil service? Are NMTI's employees civil service? Are they in civil service, under civil service, or they are accepted service contract? Service contract. So you might have to be thinking to promulgate your personal rules and regulations. And that's going to be what you follow, but it has to be within the law. There are other laws that governs personnel, especially funded by local funds. But that you might have to look at that and make sure you're not violating that, the laws. But you are separate. You're not the same as Commerce Department. You're not the same as DCCA because you are autonomous. You have to exercise that autonomy with NMTI, and there's a purpose for doing that. So hopefully you have time again in the future so we can sit down and discuss more and so that we can move this forward and make it successful. And the beneficiary here are our people. And Mr. Chairman, don't forget to give us some of the documents that we ask you, the attorneys, the ages, some opinions, and the expiration of your board of trustees. Any other members that would like to say the final words and Cruz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know this is a very lengthy hearing, but again, Chairman Valentino and CEO, members of the Nmti, I appreciate coming over and there's a lot of things that we learned today, and like what the Chairman mentioned, that we must abide to this law. And since I haven't seen you mentioned that the transition report is incomplete. Since I haven't seen that full transition report, I was wondering when this was Trade Institute, do they have outstanding debt balance that haven't been settled, or those have been settled prior to the lapse of that grace period of the transition to be completed? We just want to make sure because according to the law, the technical shouldn't be responsible for any debt
So
that occurred by the Trade Institute.
from what we know, everything has been settled. Because there's a lot of the change of the name and whatnot. I have yet to receive any unsettled disputes. The only thing that's pending is CUC changing out the name from trades to technical.
So anything that requires legal advice, seek legal advice from the agent's office, Scotia, and autonomous is entitled to that services as well. So thank you again for your time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, one more thing, one more question, because the law calls for NMTI to come up with its mission, vision, goals, and a 5-year plan. CEO, is that in the works?
Yes, I just brought that up at the last meeting or 2 meetings prior, that as a board, we would all need to sit down and we're hoping to include staff to start to create or revise our mission, vision, and values, along with a strategic plan for the next 5 years.
I recommend that you involve the advisory committee so they can assist you, so that there will be a connectivity between these institutions and NMTI and not a duplication. Have you discussed about your logo? Are you keeping the logo of the
The one that
trades?
we have now.
Yes.
No, we're not keeping the trades logo. We are actually using a temporary logo, as you saw in our slides, but we're hoping that when we get our marketing person on board, that person can focus on, all our marketing aspects, including the logo. That should be reviewed by the board as well and other staff members.
Okay, so next time, that we call NMTI and CEO will provide us the update. And CEO, I appreciate, and Mr. Chairman, if you can give us also an update on the EDA grant. I am not so sure if CEO, if the land where the new school is going to be built, is it a designated land to NMTI?
Yes, sir.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to request and provide us an update on the grant, and also provide us information such as how much you are authorized for administrative costs out of the $10 million, and the percentage. If there's any, then the grantor agency will advise you, and usually that percentage is negotiated for many of the grants. And if it's not authorized, they will let you know. Please find that out, whether you're authorized to get percentage out for administrative costs, so you can start processing how you can and when we can access the administrative costs allowable under the grant. So with that, again, thank you very much, CEO, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Couts, and the other board members that are here. Mr. Speda, it's nice to see you in the legislature. And I thought you were really, really tired, but I guess not, because you're still here. And members, thank you very much, Jolene, Antoinette, Vice. Thank you so much. So at this time, I would like to hear a motion for the adjournment.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn today's committee meeting.
The motion to adjourn has been seconded. Our today's committee meeting is hereby adjourned at 2:45. Thank you again.